Thank you for joining us online. At Mission Gathering, we welcome all to Christ's table. If you are Asian, Hispanic, Black, or white, if you are male or female, trans or non-binary, if you are 3 days old, 30 years old, or 130 years old, if you've never stepped foot in a church, or if you are Buddhist, Roman Catholic, agnostic, or a lifelong evangelical, if you are single, married, divorced, separated, or partnered, if you are straight, gay, lesbian, or bisexual, if you are a Republican, a Democrat, an independent, a socialist, or not registered to vote, if you have or have had addictions, phobias, abortions, or a criminal record, if you own your own home or rent, live with your parents, or are homeless, if you are fully able, disabled, or a person of differing abilities, you are welcome here.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. Am I more than just the sum of every high and every low? Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. Ooh, you say I am loved, but I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong, but I think I'm weak. You say I am held, but I am falling short. When I don't belong, oh, you say I'm yours. Oh, I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, oh, you say I am loved, but I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong, but I think I'm weak. You say I am held, but I am falling short. When I don't belong, oh, you say I'm yours. Oh, I believe, oh, I believe what you say of me. Oh, I believe. Taking all I have, now I'm laying it at your feet. You have every failure, God. You have every victory. Ooh, oh, you say I am loved, but I can't feel a thing. You say I am strong, but I think I'm weak. You say I am held, I am falling short. You and I don't
life like this one. She is a woman of strength and mighty valor. She is full of wealth and wisdom. The price paid for her was greater than many jewels. Her husband has entrusted his heart to her, for she brings him the rich spoils of victory. All throughout her life, she brings him what is good and not evil. She searches out continually to possess that which is pure and righteous. She delights in the work of her hands. She gives out revelation truth to feed others. She is like a trading ship bringing divine supplies from the merchant. Even in the night season, she arises and sets food on the table for hungry ones in her house and for others. She sets her heart upon a nation and takes it as her own, carrying it within her. She labors there to plant the living vines. She wraps herself in strength, might, and power in all her works. She tastes and experiences a better substance, and her shining light will not be extinguished, no matter how dark the night. She stretches out her hands to help the needy, and she lays hold of the wheels of government. She is known by her extravagant generosity to the poor, for she always reaches out her hand to those in need. She is not afraid of tribulation, for all her household is covered in the dual garments of righteousness and grace. Her clothing is beautifully knit together, a purple gown of exquisite linen. Her husband is famous and admired by all, sitting as the venerable judges of his people. Even her works of righteousness she does for the benefit of her enemies. Bold power and glorious majesty are wrapped around her, and she laughs with joy over the latter days. Her teachings are filled with wisdom and kindness as loving instruction pours from her lips. She watches over the ways of her household and meets every need they have. Her sons and daughters arise in one accord to extol her virtues, and her husband arises to speak of her in glowing terms. There are many valiant and noble ones, but you have ascended above them all. Charm can be misleading, and beauty is vain, and so quickly fades. But this virtuous woman lives in the wonder, awe, and fear of the Lord. She will be praised throughout eternity. So go ahead and give her the credit that is due, for she has become a radiant woman, and all her loving works of righteousness deserve to be admired at the gateways of every city.
If you've been to church on Mother's Day, you've probably heard Proverbs 31 verses 10 through 31 before. At best, most pastors read the verses and extol the virtues of marriage and motherhood and not being vain. At worst, these verses are read like a list of prescriptions for being a godly woman. There are whole industries built up around this idea of being the Proverbs 31 woman. There are whole industries built up that these are the hoops a woman must jump through in order to be considered godly. There are conferences and books designed to turn women into living Pinterest boards worthy of being Instagram influencers, or even trying to replicate and recreate the fictional June Cleaver 1950s housewife. But reading this wisdom poem this way is unfair to the poem. You see, this poem was never meant to have women as its target audience. The book of Proverbs spends 30 chapters having wisdom passed on from a father to his son. But in chapter 31, the final chapter, is wisdom from a mother to her son. This may be why we see both a liberating view of women for 600 to 300 years before the birth of Jesus, right? Almost 3,000 years ago. And also why we see an impossible construct that no one person could possibly live up to. I mean, mothers have always wanted more than is possible for their sons from their sons' partners. Am I right? And 3,000 years ago, it was no different. But this poem was written with a purpose. And that purpose was to instruct the son not to keep their wife from being who they can be, and not to focus on things that society tells them to focus on. In the ancient Near East and Mediterranean, women were supposed to be stay-at-home everything. They weren't allowed to leave the household. In many cultures like the Greeks, they weren't even allowed to show their face in public. Yes, they would work and manage the household, but that was as far as the interaction went. Interacting with people outside of the family was prohibited by almost every culture. It was discouraged and regulated to the point that we still have passages of ancient laws limiting the rights of women in the Mediterranean world. That is why at the opening of this poem, the Hebrew words eshet she'el doesn't mean competent wife. It means a woman of valor. Eshet meaning woman in Hebrew, and she'el meaning valor, or the root word for warrior, one who is brave, one who goes to battle. The wisdom being found here is not in praise of subservience or second-classhood, but it praises a woman who bravely goes beyond what society expects of her and shows her intellect and her skills and her compassion and her creativity and her business acumen and her ability to be a boss babe. In Jewish households all over the world, husbands still sing this song of praise over their wives. Every Friday night, they sing it as a reminder that where they're at, that their home, that their world, that everything is made a better place, not just by the efforts of a man, but by the contributions of women as well. That women are a part of reshaping and making the world a better place. So husbands sing these songs of praises over their wives and to their daughters, so that they will grow up to learn that they can have power, that they can do good, and that their talents are needed in this world. Jewish women often praise a new mother as woman of valor. Someone who has just finished their last round of chemotherapy is praised as woman of valor. Got the promotion, started a business, made it through another school year with all the young kids, and so much more. Started your own company. Praises to the woman of valor ring out. But you see, woman of valor, that Hebrew phrase, that woman of valor, is not just attached to marriage and motherhood. Ruth is probably the least likely person you would think would be called woman of valor. She doesn't meet the criteria that get thrown out in these women conferences. But yet she is praised in the city streets by Boaz as a woman of valor while she is still unmarried and childless. There are women of valor all over the Bible. Women like Deborah, who led armies, and Priscilla, who led churches, and Mary of Magdala, who was the apostle to the apostles, Mary of Bethany, Mary of Nazareth, and so many other women of valor, of courage, of strength, of talent, of leadership. These are women who led armies, taught the gospel, spoke truth to power, ran businesses, and did courageous things that are not tied to homemaking or child rearing. And let me be clear, motherhood and marriage both are acts of valor and take courageous efforts within them. No one is saying that those are not no longer good things. No one should ever take away the courage and the valor that it takes to be married or to raise children. But when Proverbs 31 is used to limit women only to those two roles, it is not being used as a source of wisdom. It is being used as a tool of abuse and oppression. The wise mother of the Proverbs seeks to free the woman who her son marries to be her full self. In Mission Gathering, the church should seek to do that with the women in our midst as well. And not even just focusing on gender, but opening up ourselves to seeing that all who have been sidelined, all who have been pigeonholed, and all who have been marginalized have gifts to bring us in the church and the world. And limiting those gifts is only harm to all of us as a community, as a society, and as a world. So I think in the memory of the scholar and prophet Rachel Held Evans, we should begin again to praise women of valor in our midst. Each woman in our lives is a woman of valor. In a country that allows laws to be passed that put bounties on women for seeking health care, that passes laws to control their bodies, their bodily autonomy. Getting up each morning in a country like that is an act of valor. In a land where women's paid labor is valued 75% less than that of a man, and even less if they're a woman of color, getting up for work each day is an act of valor. And in a world where 80% of the unpaid labor of life is still done by women, women of valor abound. Just surviving in this world, thriving, creating, loving, giving back, sustaining, supporting, all are acts of valor in a world that seeks not to protect you, but to put you down. So may we come to learn from the wisdom of these valorous women and put aside the sinful folly of patriarchy and misogyny that tries to keep certain people in their place, that tries to keep women from attaining power and equity, so that we may find the most precious treasure of all, most precious gifts of all, have been with us, sustaining us, propelling us forward, teaching us, caring for us, inventing for us, moving for us, reaching for us. These gifts have been with us all along. May you come to see that wisdom. May you heed the wise words of the wise mother, Proverbs 31. May we come to appreciate the women of valor in our midst. May it be so. One of the ways we sustain ourselves and remember who we are is through the family meal that we call communion. This meal was begun by Jesus on the night he knew he was leaving his friends, so that they could remember him, so that when they felt lost, they had something to come back to, a touchstone, a place. If you feel lost and lonely, if you are hungry, and if you thirst, come to this table. From wherever you are watching from, whether it's your living room or your office, and with whatever you have to eat or drink. Because as we remember, on the night that he was betrayed, he held up the bread, giving thanks, and he said, "This is my body broken for you." Likewise, he held up the cup and blessed it, saying, "This is my love, my blood poured out for you." Friends, this is the bread of heaven, and this is the cup of life. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Amen.
1, 2, 3, and...